Hello there! On this video I'm going to try to teach you how you can play your PC games on your Mac or any other device really without needing to have your other computer in the room. Now, let us be honest, you could very much easily just have your Mac with an Ethernet dongle that goes to your PC attached to a video capture device, so you can then stream your own gameplay into your Mac. That's perfectly valid, and honestly, if you don't want any complications, you could just go with this setup and it will work fine. But that's not how we are going to do it. What we want is not to have the computer with us generating noise and generating heat. And we want something that we can switch on and off and work on stuff or play games without anything interrupting the other thing, so you don't have conflicting resources. So, in order to get rid of the second computer on our room, we need to introduce a third computer. In this case, we are going to be introducing a small server. In this case, it's the Lenovo ThinkCentre M720Q Mini, which I made a review about a few years back. And this is going to be our server running Linux. And this is my Yankee setup on which we are going to be installing it. So with that, we are going to get into the computer and get Proxmox installed. So we will start by actually installing the operating system that we will be using on our server. In this case, as I mentioned before, it's Proxmox, which is a small variation on Debian Linux, which is focused on containers and virtualization. We will set the computer to boot from our USB drive, which contains Ventoy, which is a very fancy loader for ISO files. So you can just have multiple installers of things in one pen drive. And we will boot from Proxmox. We of course want to install the system, so we will hit yes, and we wait as it loads. So for this purpose, we could use basically any operating system or any distribution of Linux. But in my case, I want Proxmox specifically because at a later date, I want to install more tools and services inside their own containers or virtual machines. So this will be the exact right tool for the job. So now we wait for the IOLA to load. It basically tells us that Proxmox has a license that it's provided as is, that you need to pay for the commercial support, etc., etc. Anyway, we are now in the target disk options, and we want to combine for future use our two hard disks or two SSDs into one single volume, so they all work as one. Now, I'm not going to get into what should be the most efficient way or fastest, or what would provide the biggest data redundancy. This is not really the project for that. So we are just going to hit options, select RAID 0 for BTRFS, because we want BTRFS for our project, as it will allow us to just merge the two drives that we want to use. They are here. And we just hit OK, and now that's set up. Now we have to set our country. And then our time zone and our keyboard layout. Then we will need a password for our root user. Okay, those passwords should match. And mail at e1000 dot local. Okay, the passwords don't match. Lovely. This keyboard I'm using is actually kind of bust up. That probably works. Yeah, now that works. So our domain or host name will be e1000 dot e1000 dot lan. There you go. Now I want the address 128. Yeah. And let's verify that we have everything in place. Yeah, file system is correct. Yes, the disks are correct. Time zone is correct. Key map is correct. Management interface is correct. Everything is correct. Yeah, everything is correct. So we can just hit install. So now is the most boring part of the installation. So I will take this downtime to explain a little bit more of what we want to do with this. As I said before, you could just have your gaming computer connected directly to your router, and then you can use Moonlight or Parsec or Steam in-house streaming, and that will work, and that's fine. But I want to use a intermediary server because it will give us much improved performance, and not performance for gaming, but performance in general. And it just gives us more flexibility for what we can do and we cannot do with it. And I do think that this project will teach people a lot of useful things that I think that may be of use for different things, regardless of what they do. Regarding performance, since I already had that small slip up, if you connect your gaming PC directly to your network or to your end device, your lag is of less than 1 millisecond. And I already have done this before, and my computer connected to the server that connects to the router and then to the Mac has 1.8 milliseconds, and that's 3.6 milliseconds round trip. So it's still under a frame. So to get information to and from the computer takes less than a frame at 60 frames per second. For that, you would want something around like 20 milliseconds, and this is well under that, like 1/4. So for 60 FPS streaming, this is more than acceptable. That's why I am recommending to do this over connecting this directly, because the loss in performance due to lag is non-existent basically. And oh, that's already installed, so we can reboot now. So the performance is negligible, and we will gain a lot of flexibility. So with that installed, I'm going to show you the interface. There is none. Basically, what the computer wants us to do is to connect this to the network and then use that remotely, which is basically what we will be doing. As you can see, It's just telling us, welcome to Proxmox, use the interface. So this concludes this segment, and let's now go into the, well, I'm going to place the server on the router and connect that to the other computer, and then we can start with the actual configuring of our machine. So our computer has now got Proxmox installed, and we've placed it to our destination of choice physically. So now it's time to configure it. Now I should probably preface this by saying that a bunch of things are gonna be slightly incomplete on this part of the tutorial, because instead of actually recording to a file, I've streamed this on Picarto accidentally. So to those that are actually following me there, I hope you enjoyed the small tutorial segment ahead of time. So with that said, I'm going to try to fix that as much as I can. I really only had one shot on this, so I've tried to undo as much as possible, but we'll do what we can. So we got to the IP that we got on the screen that we were seeing when we started the machine after installing for the first time. And we will get this login screen. So we will get our credentials inserted here. And it will tell us that we don't have a valid subscription to the server. And that's okay, because we can actually fix this. We will not be able to fix the next screen, but we can actually get rid of the subscription needs by just going to updates, repositories. And here you would get a list with the subscription repositories. You can just go to here where it says file and remove it with a terminal. And well, I cannot undo that, but you can just remove those, and then once those are removed, you would just go to add. It will tell us we don't have a subscription, and it doesn't matter. Then we select either no subscription or test, and we hit add, and the repository will be up and running. This will allow us to update our software and ensure that things are up to date. So in order to update our system, we will just open a new terminal. And from here, we will do apt update to refresh the list of packages that are available. And then apt upgrade to upgrade them, because I did this on the stream accidentally. Everything has been upgraded. So assume that you would have to download about 500 megabytes of content. And once that's completed, then all you would have to do is install the tool that we are going to use to bridge our USB dongle and our computer together, so we can have our computer talk to the server and the server talk to the router and our computer. So in order to do that, we will install our virtual switch, which is cleverly named Open Virtual Switch. Who knew? So we do apt install open vswitch switch, hit enter, and I think that's installed. Okay, it's telling us that our switch is disabled, which is fine. And we will now go ahead and configure our ATC interfaces. Picture me here This is what happens when you do basically everything unscripted, and you get super excited because you did like 5 takes of these. You had to reinstall Proxmox twice, and then you had to do everything a handful of times, and then you get interrupted, and then you accidentally stream your tutorial to Picarto instead of recording. So here's something super important we have to take note of before we go and edit our interfaces file. We need to get a hold of our interface names. So in order to do that, we do IPA, and then it will tell us everything. Now, as you can see, this is huge. It's a huge list because I'm doing this after editing my interfaces file. But you want to make sure that you do this before editing your interfaces file. And you take note of your interface, the one that has your external connection. To explain, as you configured it on the setup assistant when you first install Proxmox, your management interface should be Eno1, and you want your beefy name with basically your MAC address as your interface name, as the one that actually connects to your PC and back. So before you actually do anything, you actually have to take note of that and then copy that somewhere else. Because the interface names don't usually change, especially since they are based on MAC addresses. I could just copy and paste my own configuration and have it work at the first time, which is why I was amazed. I absolutely forgot to do the step where I actually check for my interfaces. So, well, that's done, bypassed me, and now I'm correcting my error. So we can actually go back in time and continue the tutorial as it was intended. So in order to do that, we will use nano, etc. network interfaces. All right, so we basically want to keep the keep all the interfaces tidy and neat. So we will actually start by removing everything. And we can start typing our file, which I actually should have around here, which I don't want to risk having a typo and filing to type it. So hold a little bit while I find it. Okay, so I can actually copy and paste my configuration file. This is from before, but I will explain what each one of these things do. So this sets up our interface, our loopback interface. It's the one that actually handles localhost and all of those things. Then this is our upstream interface. It's N01, the one we actually saw during the setup assistant. And this is actually set as a manually, and it's set to be an OBS port for PB switch for the bridge VMR 100. Likewise, here we have our downstream interface. this is the one that will talk to our system, as in the streaming machine that we have, the gaming PC. And same thing, we set it as an OBS type port, and we set it to be a bridge on our virtual network. So now we make Proxmox network address. This doesn't make much sense for the moment, but this will also allow virtual machines to be able to bridge outside, as well as actually providing the actual configuration for our device. So here we have our address and the gateway, and again it's an internal port and part of the virtual network VMware 100. And likewise, actually this is the actual virtual machine. It tells you that it's part of this bridge. And here I tell you to bridge all of the interfaces. So that way we have our virtual bridge, the virtual network that can be used for the virtual machines, our actual upstream interface to connect to the internet, and the downstream interface that connects to the gaming PC. So we hit exit, save modified buffer. I write to that file, and then I'm going to start the services related to Open vSwitch, which is this one and this one. And now, if everything works, I should be able to do a exit to leave the shell. Then we can actually please close that, and then we can go to our machine, basically tell it to reboot. We reboot the node, and now we wait a handful of seconds as our computer reboots remotely. And this is where I fear for my life, because I have no idea if the changes worked, because some funky error message happened and I'm just now scared. Isn't that funny? So we can actually make our terminal larger here and do ping our machine, and we are getting a response back. Also, that was a very fast reboot. So okay, that sounds good. So let's restart. And I can't actually believe it. Our machine, if I can get a shell here, and I get a shell without a problem. And yeah, last login, yeah, that sounds about right. So I can do ping, and it's applying. So we have connectivity from this machine to the server, and from the server to the outside world. So now let's try if we have any connectivity from the gaming machine. This is gonna be a little bit weird because the gaming machine isn't configured statically. It's configured by DHCP. So I am going to be relying on Moonlight to actually show the gaming machine as available. And that's basically what we're going to do next. So hold on tight as I go and figure if it's available or not. Lo and behold, I turn on the computer and now the error message no longer pops up. So we can access our gaming machine from our Mac. And I can't believe that there weren't any big issues after the first errors I encountered. I am so glad that worked the first time. Okay, so this is basically it. We have successfully configured Proxmox. We have, hold on. We have successfully configured Proxmox. We have now an environment that can allow us to create virtual machines and create Linux containers. I will explain those in a future video. But the most important part is that now we have our networking working as intended. And I'm so happy right now. So, yeah. Sorry if this part of the video is a little bit out of place, kinda. Because while I'm doing this in segments, each segment is basically unscripted and I really don't have a backup. So I'm amazed that this works. So now I am going to show you what you should do to see your machine in the network. Something that I forgot to explain before getting here. But if you have Steam in-house streaming, then you will probably, then your instructions will be different. And if you use Parsec, your instructions will be different, and I really cannot cover those. In fact, I kind of refuse to use Parsec. I'm really sorry for that one person on the Redout server that will be seeing this and works for Unity now. I don't do Unity. I refuse to pay for things that should be free, and there is no reason why accessing the media encoder engine of your GPU should be locked between a login with a username and a password on a server hosted somewhere in the world. I'm sorry, that just rubs off the wrong way, and I refuse. I'm really sorry, but I'm really sorry. So if you have an NVIDIA card, you would need to install GeForce Experience, log into your user, then go to Game Stream, check the little switch, and then on Moonlight, you would get your device showing on the screen. And when you click on it, it will show you here a password you have to enter. Actually, you have to enter the password here. The Mac will show you what password you have to enter. You enter it, and now you're in. Before you actually can get in, you actually need to add a game. In this case, it's just explorer.exe. So you just go to Windows and add Explorer from the list. And that's how you actually can see your desktop and operate your computer from remotely. And that's basically it. Everything from here on out just works as you would expect. You would just launch any game you want. For example, there's 5 here, and it will work as intended. No issues whatsoever. And that's basically it. So yeah, that's basically all there is to setting this up. I really hope you have actually enjoyed seeing this, and I really hope you have learned something, because next time I'm going to actually be setting up both a file sharing, so one can actually back up things to their Mac using Time Machine, and I'll probably take all on the same episode, the same video. I will tackle also how to get a DNS filtering service up and running on your server. So yeah, while it's a little bit of a complicated setup, there's a lot of things that this setup can achieve, because now we have a gaming PC which has its own resources for gaming, and we now have a server that we can use for anything we want, and everything is independent of each other, and that's just magical. Like, I don't think anybody understands, well, most people may not understand how liberating this can be if you have something you want to offload to something else. It's great. So with that said, I really hope you learned something with this video. If you have any questions, you are free to comment on the video and I'll try to answer everything I can. And with that said, I will see you all on the next video. Now that this is over, I want to take the chance and thank my patrons for all of the support that they've given me. Their names are right here on the screen, and I really wouldn't be doing this without them. They are great. They are great fellows, and if you want to appear on the list and also be able to see other content that I make, like illustrations and other things, I'll leave a link on the description so you can see what's up and maybe become a Patreon as well. With that said, now I'm really leaving for real.